Her other guests, a floor up, in Wesley and Buttercup, chose the inn for their wedding night. She liked to think the newlyweds, April and Troy, would take lovely, lasting memories with them. She checked the door to the second-level porch, then, on impulse, unlocked it and stepped out into the night. With her wine, she crossed the wide wood deck, leaned on the rail. Across the square, the apartment above Vesta sat dark and empty now that Avery had moved in with Owen Montgomery. She could admit, to herself anyway, she missed looking over and knowing her friend was right there, just across Main. But Avery was exactly where she belonged, Hope decided, with Owen, her first and, as it turned out, her last boyfriend. Talk about sweet. And she'd help plan a wedding. May bride, May flowers, right there in the courtyard, just as Claire's had been this past spring. Thinking of it, Hope looked down Main toward the bookstore. Claire's Turn the Page had been a risk for a young widow with 2 children and another on the way, but she'd made it work. Claire had a knack for making things work. Now, she was Claire Montgomery, Beckett's wife, and when winter came again, they'd welcome a new baby to the mix. Odd, wasn't it, that her 2 friends had lived right in Boonsboro for so long, and she'd relocated only the year, not even a full year yet, before. The new kid in town. Now, of the 3 of them, she was the only one still right here, right in the heart of town. Silly to miss them when she saw them nearly every day, but on restless nights she could wish, just a little, they were still close. So much had changed for all of them in this past year. She'd been perfectly content in Georgetown with her home, her work, her routine. With Jonathan, the cheating bastard. She'd had good, solid plans, no rush, no hurry, but solid plans. The Wickham had been her place. She'd known its rhythm, its tones, its needs, and she'd done a hell of a job for the Wickhams and their cheating bastard son, Jonathan. She'd planned to marry him. No, there'd been no formal engagement, no concrete promises, but marriage and future had been on the table. She wasn't a moron. And all the time, or at least in the last several months, they'd been together, with him sharing her bed, or her sharing his, he'd been seeing someone else. Someone of his more elevated social strata, you could say, she mused, with lingering bitterness. Someone who wouldn't work 10 and 12-hour days, and often more, to manage the exclusive hotel, but who'd stay there in its most elaborate suite, of course. No, she wasn't a moron, but she'd been far too trusting and humiliatingly shocked when Jonathan told her he would be announcing his engagement to someone else the next day. Humiliatingly shocked, she thought again, particularly as they'd been naked and in her bed at the time. Then again, he'd been shocked too when she'd ordered him to get the hell out. He genuinely hadn't understood why anything between them should change. That single moment ushered in a lot of change. Now she was Inn BoonsBoro's innkeeper, living in a small town in western Maryland, a good clip from the bright lights of the big city. She didn't spend what free time she had planning clever little dinner parties or shopping in the boutiques for the perfect shoes for the perfect dress for the next event. Did she miss all that? Her go-to boutique, her favorite lunch spot, the lovely high ceilings and flower-framed little patio of her own townhouse, or the pressure and excitement of preparing the hotel for visits from dignitaries, celebrities, business moguls? Sometimes, she admitted, but not as often as she'd expected to, and not as much as she'd assumed she would, because she had been content in her personal life, challenged in her professional one, and the Wickham had been her place. But she'd discovered something in the last few months. Here, she wasn't just content, but happy. The inn wasn't just her place. It was home. She had her friends to thank for that, and the Montgomery brothers along with their mother. Justine Montgomery had hired her on the spot. At the time, Hope hadn't known Justine well enough to be surprised by